As mentioned in the previous videos about developer mode, some static asset files are compiled before they can be accessed from the web. These are less files that are compiled into CSS, require.js configurations that are merged from all modules into a single require.js config.js file, and translations that are applied with JavaScript. If you are just learning Magento development by watching Mage2 TV, chances are you're not yet familiar with these files. If so, don't worry, you can safely skip this video or not. You can always come back later and watch it again when you're more familiar with it. For these compiled files, some manual steps are required to make any changes visible on the front end, even in developer mode. Let's start with less files. So this text content here on this demo page is styled by this less file. It's got the color dim gray. Dim gray is boring. I want to use a more live color. How about orange red? Now, reloading makes no difference. Flushing the full page cache, no difference. What we actually have to do is we have to remove the compiled CSS file. In my case, that's the styles m.css file, but of course it depends on a given less file, which CSS files would be affected. Okay, that's the first one. The second file we have to remove is a copy of the original source file that Magento creates within the var view preprocess directory branch. Right here. Okay, now I removed these two files. Now I'll reload the front end again. It'll be rather slow. But the change is applied. The less compilation is triggered by the pub static.php application entry point. Here, this script. This script serves as a catch-all for all requests to non-existing static assets. And then Magento decides what to do depending on the type of file. Another, probably better option would be to set up a file watcher with a task runner like grunt or gulp to do the compilation when a source file changes. But this is what has to be done if the default PHP-less compiler is being used. We have to remove those two files and reload. Now, another type of generated file is the jstranslation.json file that contains the localized strings for translations that are applied in JavaScript. You can see this file here. Right here. It's a simple JSON object with the key being the original string and the value being the translation target. So this one just translate. This will be translated to this string has been translated. So that's this title right here. The translation source is this CSV file in the internationalization folder in the demo module. So if I want to apply a change here, let's say I want to add an exclamation mark to the localized message. Now, what do we have to do to make this change appear on the front end? We actually have to do three things. First, we have to flush the translation cache. Next, we have to remove that json-translate.json file. And finally, we have to make a change in the browser, and that is in the application local storage. There's a key here, mage translation file version, and the translations themselves are also stored in local storage. but we have to remove this one here, the file version. And now if I reload, watch this here. Oh, you can see the local storage got updated with our new translation. But there's a race condition. It wasn't yet applied to the rendered string on the page. So once we reload again, then it's visible in the JavaScript too. Now, finally, let's have a look at require.js configuration files. You might have noticed every time during the last couple of videos when I opened the console, this little foo message was logged. This is because in this require.js config.js file, I'm logging out foo. It doesn't really add any configuration to require.js, but it does log something. So if I change the log message here, if I reload, it doesn't make a difference. But all that we have to do to apply this change is we have to flush the full page cache. And now the change is visible. The reason the changes are only picked up if the full page cache is cleaned, or it could be disabled too, is because the generation is triggered by the prepare layout method in the module Magento require.js HTML head config PHP block class. So this is rendered on every page. So only when a page is rendered, the require.js config.js file is regenerated.